Hello there, science fiction fans everywhere. My name is Sarah Jenkins. Welcome to another deep dive today. I absolutely love Denis Martindale. He has written over 3,700 poems for the Poem Hunter website, which is incredible. But this time, Denis has written a science fiction short story. He introduces us to what could follow the final war on planet Earth. See, in this future, survival is either extremely difficult or remarkably easy because of mankind's technology. But what if there is only one survivor? Well, here is what the story's message shares with us today. So I want you to imagine the psychological weight of this scenario for a second as we jump into this explainer. We're looking at a story that strips humanity down to its absolute barest bones. It poses this really profound question. What if you survived, but you had no idea what you were even surviving as? I mean, you have zero context, zero history, and literally no understanding of what it means to be a human being. That is the exact terrifying predicament Denis Martindale sets up for his solitary protagonist. Section 1. Raised by Fading Machines. A life devoid of human connection. Looking at this timeline, it maps out the boy's narrative arc, showing us exactly how his bizarre journey unfolds. His life is basically sliced into 3 distinct phases. First up, you have his formative years, which are defined by total isolation and silence under the care of androids. Then, as decades pass, a massive paradigm shift happens with the discovery of the hologram room. And finally, the tragic end of his life, where he bears the heavy title of the last man on Earth. The details of his daily existence are just truly heartbreaking. The boy lived entirely in the home he was born in. He was never hugged, never kissed. He was raised by various androids until their power packs simply drained away one by one. His very last companion is a solar-powered machine, but it's so heavily damaged that it can't even speak. It just silently hands him food from old storage. So the boy eats whatever he can get just to survive, but because he has absolutely no one to talk to, he never learns how to speak. He has zero vocabulary skills. The text tells us he would see words written on the walls of his home, but he had no clue what they meant. He was a human being, completely cut off from human culture. Let's move to Section 2, The Hologram's Gift, breaking decades of silence. Okay, so one day, that mute android actually discovers an extra room and forces the door open. The lights flicker wildly, and this automatic hologram display just springs to life. The android literally stares at it in wonder and leads the boy by the hand to watch. And what's really fascinating here is the sheer emotional contrast. On one hand, you have the boy's physical reality, right? It's cold, it's mute, he's totally alone, surviving on scraps. But on the other hand, you have the hologram's simulated reality, which is full of spoken language, warm family dynamics, and deep human connection. It's basically a window into a ghost world. This ancient flickering technology completely blows his mind. Through this male hologram, the boy sees his very first representation of a human being. And as time passes, the hologram shares details of his family. The boy watches all of this, utterly captivated, and learns how families actually communicate with each other. He absorbs all this info, eventually understanding biology, realizing where boys and girls come from, and learning that children grow up into adults. It's a huge paradox, right? It is this piece of artificial technology that finally teaches the boy what it actually means to be human. Section 3. The Omega Wars Survivor. The harsh transition from boy to man. Now, to really understand his present, we have to understand the past, which brings us to the Omega War. Denis Martindale describes this as a possible future outcome of mankind's AI developments that led to a final war on Earth. Now, the story doesn't list out the specific weapons or every single battle, but the context clues define the Omega War as a catastrophic event with an incredibly specific, devastating outcome. Not one single female survived. The war completely wiped out the rest of humanity, leaving just this boy, educated perfectly for a society that no longer exists. There's this one line in the text that just hits you like a ton of bricks. He would eventually become the last man to die on the planet Earth. Let's just pause on the gravity of that for a second. Decades have passed. The android is still operating on full power, but the boy has now grown into a man. He has become the loneliest man in the world. I mean, he can now speak the same language as the hologram, he finally understands communication and family, but the ultimate crushing irony is that he has absolutely nobody to talk to. And finally, Section 4, Mankind's Final Warning. The existential conclusion of Denis Martindale's story. Pushing past his desolate upbringing, the man realizes he just can't stay confined inside forever. Eventually, he ventures out of the home he was born in. He explores near and far, pushing past the ruined city streets, and his journey eventually leads him to a lake, a place the story tells us, quote, changed his life. After a lifetime of staring at glowing screens and crumbling walls, he finally steps out into the wider, empty world. And the story leaves us right on the edge of that revelation. It hits us with this haunting question: what on earth did he find at the lake? And is this ultimate isolation the inevitable end of our AI developments? It completely challenges us to look at the real-world trajectory of our own technology and warfare. Because think about it, if survival is made remarkably easy by machines, but there is zero human connection left to share it with, what is the true value of that survival? Denis Martindale masterfully leaves us with this provocative thought, practically begging us to look closely at our present before we end up like the lonely boy in the future.